The university has done a really good job at controlling the case.
KCI 9 News this morning, but now the UO is facing another case of meningococcemia. Details on the latest student to test positive. Plus, a public memorial for the late Dave Frohnmeyer. Details on his service at Matthew Knight Arena. Plus,
you can see cars pulling over up there. You can see people getting out of their cars up there.
Witnesses describe a scary situation as a woman sets herself on fire and jumps over a bridge. We'll tell you how she is doing this morning.
Live, local, late breaking. This is KEZI 9 News This Morning.
And good morning. It is 6 o'clock, Friday, March 13th. I'm Jennifer Richardson. Bob is off today. We'll get to all your top stories in just a minute. But first, let's check in with Storm Tracker 9 meteorologist Melissa Fry. And you have another beautiful day on tap for us.
Another beautiful day. Yeah, today will look a little bit different. We will see some extra cloud cover moving in today, but still going to be dry. It's still going to be warm as well. And take a look at those current conditions outside. I'll let you know what this weekend weather will hold coming up here in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Melissa. We start this morning at the University of Oregon after a fifth student tested positive for meningococcemia, the bacterial infection that can lead to meningitis. KEZI 9 News reporter Grace Lim is live in the studio with the student's condition. Grace.
Well, Jen, the student, a 19-year-old male, is in the hospital this morning and is responsive. A school spokesperson says they caught this case early. The sophomore lived off campus in an apartment but was in a fraternity. Health experts are now talking with his roommates and trying to identify who else he may have had close contact with. This bacteria, meningococcemia, has sickened 4 others, killing 1 student. Here's what students had to say about this latest case.
I'm actually not as concerned just because after that first death, the university has done a really good job at controlling the case. They've had this huge campaign called Get the Vax. They put hashtags everywhere.
The University of Oregon couldn't say if this student took part in last week's mass vaccination clinic, but because the vaccine comes in 3 parts, it's not effective yet. The University of Oregon confirmed to KEZI 9 News that it's established another vaccination clinic. It's scheduled for today at the apartment complex 13th and Olive. It will be administered through Safeway. So far, more than 6,000 students have had this vaccine. Live in the studio, Grace Lim, KEZI 9 News.
Thank you, Grace. A woman suffered life-threatening injuries after police say she jumped off a Eugene bridge while on fire. A witness says he called 911 for a speeding car on I-105 near Pioneer Parkway. He says she was trying to light herself on fire. He shot this video with his cell phone of the woman's car on the Washington-Jefferson Bridge. Police say the vehicle crashed into a guardrail and rolled before stopping. That's when witnesses say the woman jumped out and ran down to the bridge. Police say several people tried to stop her, but she jumped over the side, landing 40 feet below.
Look up and there's smoke and everyone's running from the skate park over to the grass. You can see cars pulling over up there. You can see people getting out of their cars up there and walking down quite a ways down the bridge.
Nurses and staff from nearby Buckley House ran to help the woman before paramedics arrived. She was transported to a Portland hospital for burn treatment. And debris from the car crash went flying. Some landed below the bridge where people were standing. One woman even got hit on the head.
Yeah, I got hit pretty hard. He told me to sit down, and then somebody flagged down the police that was up there, and he came down and had the paramedics check me out and took me to the hospital.
She says she has a concussion but is otherwise okay. She says the crash sounded like an explosion and she thought at one point it was going to collapse. Turning now to the unrest in Ferguson, Missouri, where police are still searching for suspects after 2 officers were shot during protests early yesterday morning. Last night, protesters took to the streets again, this time peacefully.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice.
Protesters were calling for the resignation of Ferguson's mayor. Several public officials, including the police chief, resigned in the wake of a Department of Justice report that found systematic targeting of African-American residents. President Obama says the Ferguson protests against systematic racism are understandable, but violence is not.
What had been happening in Ferguson was oppressive and objectionable and was worthy of protest. But there was no excuse for criminal acts.
Last night, about 50 people gathered near the police station for a candlelight vigil honoring the police officers shot yesterday. The 2 officers are now back home from the hospital. And fallout from Ferguson has, of course, impacted the nation, some of it centering around recording police activities. Eugene police say it's a First Amendment right for the public to record law enforcement on camera. And last night, the Eugene Police Commission discussed a newly drafted policy to make that clear to the community. There are some limits. An officer can ask someone to record from a reasonable distance so the person doesn't interfere with police activity, and laws can't be broken.
You can't trespass on somebody else's property. You can't commit a crime. You can't incite others to not cooperate with the police while trying to capture video.
The draft discussed last night will go to the chief and senior staff for approval before going to the district attorney and the city for final review. Well, breaking news out of Oklahoma this morning. The fraternity kicked out of the University of Oklahoma campus over a racist video is planning legal action against the school. It may also sue OU President David Boren. Sigma Alpha Epsilon at OUA hired a high-profile attorney to represent them. The attorney says the group is outraged over Boren shutting down the fraternity house and branding all SAE members there as racists and bigots. The group is looking at all options as far as litigation. And what prompted that racist video out of Oklahoma, Oregon State University held a town hall meeting last night to open the conversation about race relations. About 250 students, staff, faculty, and members of the public spoke openly about discrimination yesterday. KEZI 9 News wasn't able to film during the meeting, but many students shared their own experiences of racism on campus.
I identify as a black individual, you know, and people don't know that, but I still get these looks as like, what are you? What are you? You know, and that to me, it like can break an individual down after you hear it so many times.
OSU's cultural centers were there as well, encouraging everyone to continue the conversation of race and to hold others accountable if they hear any racial slurs or acts of discrimination. Starting this fall, OSU is requiring all students to take a set of courses on discrimination. And drones will be the focus of discussion in Corvallis today. Congressman Peter DeFazio is meeting with local businesses and OSU faculty members involved in drones and drone testing. DeFazio will hear concerns from the businesses and discuss FAA authorizations. That is happening today at the Adair RC runway on Northeast Arnold Avenue from 11:30 till noon. And we have an update this morning on the breaking news house fire we first told you about yesterday. 2 fires broke out early yesterday morning at the same house here at 710 Nadine Avenue. The first just after midnight in the home's office. It was extinguished within minutes. 5 hours later, flames tore through the garage, destroying it. No one was injured. The cause of those two fires is unknown. And continuing our coverage of 4J's search for a new superintendent, the school board has selected a finalist for the position. The school board picked Dr. Gustavo Balderas to replace outgoing superintendent Dr. Sheldon Berman. Balderas is currently serving as superintendent in the Ocean View School District in Huntington Beach, California. He has 25 years of experience in education. He also served as a high school teacher and counselor in the Hillsborough School District just outside Portland. 4J will try to finalize a contract in the coming days. We now know when the community can mourn the loss of Dave Frohnmeyer. His family announced they will hold a celebration of life on Saturday, March 21st at Matthew Knight Arena. The celebration will start at 2, but the doors open at 1. The 74-year-old served as the president at the University of Oregon for 15 years. He died peacefully Monday night after a lengthy and private battle with prostate cancer. Coming up on KEZI 9 News this morning, downtown Springfield has a bright future ahead of it. Plus how one local company could pave the way for safer oil transport.
Live, local, late breaking. This is KEZI 9 News This Morning with Jennifer Richardson, Bob Schaefer, and meteorologist Melissa Fry.
And breaking this morning, the Egan Warming Center releases its statistics for this year. It says for this year's season that started in November, the center served 948 people. 40% had been guests before, 71% were men. And when it came to age, the center says 42% were between the ages of 31 250. And we are going to turn now to Storm Tracker 9 meteorologist Melissa Fry. And, you know, it seemed that the centers weren't open as much this year because it's been so nice.
It's been very warm. Again, 2014 was the warmest year we had ever recorded here in Eugene. And so that carried us up through December. And then January and February really have not been any different. March even warmer. I do want to show you a quick graph here of the number of days that we were below 29 degrees.
But, you know, can't complain about those temperatures either.
Right.
All right.
Very good.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah.
Well, downtown Springfield is getting brighter tonight. Mayor Lundberg is dedicating a new set of streetlights. The city is holding a block party on 4th and Main Street in celebration of the new lights. The fun starts at 6 this evening and the lighting ceremony begins at 7. The event is open to the public and features live music, food, and the second Friday Art Walk. Main Street and A Street will be closed to traffic during that celebration. And Springfield may play a big part of reforms when it comes to rail safety. Congressman Peter DeFazio talked about new rail car designs in Springfield yesterday. He says Springfield-based Greenbrier developed a new rail car design with double steel walls, ceramic insulation, and stronger valve protection, designed specifically to hold oil. DeFazio says the safer cars will help prevent disasters in the case of a derailment.
If the old car ruptured and there's a pool of burning oil, the ceramic insulation in this new car will give them tremendous resistance to exploding like the old cars. The old cars, even if they don't rupture, are subject to exploding.
DeFazio is pushing for a new federal rule that requires the companies to make the switch. He says if the rule is put into action, major investors have already stepped forward, saying they made massive orders for the Greenbrier car. And Congressman DeFazio is also working on a bill to help craft brewers across the country. He founded the Small Brewers Caucus in the House, which includes more than 100 other lawmakers from both parties. They're pushing a bill they say would cut taxes on beer, making it easier for small breweries to hire more workers and brew more beer. Well, it could soon be legal in Oregon for people on two wheels to run red lights legally. Some lawmakers are pushing a bill that would allow cyclists and motorcyclists to bypass traffic lights that sometimes don't detect people on two wheels. It's sponsored by Eugene Senator Chris Edwards. It would allow you to run a red light at your own risk if the light doesn't turn green after a full stoplight cycle. Members of the Bicycle Transportation Alliance support the bill, but hope people really understand it.
Does not mean that you can go through any red light. It means you have to wait. You have to make sure you're not getting detected. Our suggestion is to wait a good 2 or 3 minutes because some of the signal times are 2 or 3 minute signal times.
If someone on a bike or motorcycle runs a red light, then gets hit by someone on a green light, the bill says the person on two wheels would be responsible for the accident. The state Senate passed the bill this week and it's now on the way to the House. And that brings us to our Facebook question of the day. What do you think? Do you support the new bill that would allow people on bikes and motorcycles to run red lights legally at their own risk? Stop by our Facebook page and let us know what you think. Coming up on KEZI 9 News this morning, the Eugene Airport is showing its duck pride. And we'll bring you the latest from Las Vegas, who came out on top after the Ducks took on Colorado. But first, it's time to look at today's KEZI 9 News Facebook fan of the day, Lisa Steele of Oak Ridge. Thank you for being a fan, Lisa. Anyone can be the fan of the day. Just head to the KEZI 9 News Facebook page. Make sure you click on that Facebook fan button. We'll be right back. And welcome back. It is 6:21. The Ducks men's basketball team is preparing this morning for the semifinal of the Pac-12 tournament after cruising to a win last night. KEZI 9 News Sports Director Mike Scow has all the highlights from the win over Colorado presented by Northwest Community Credit Union. And we'll have complete live coverage of tonight's game in our 11 p.m. newscast right here on KEZI 9 News. Well, the Eugene Airport is showing its duck pride, and it's turning into an internet sensation. Take a look at this new sign at the security checkpoint showing people how to pose for TSA scanning with duck pride, a big O above the man. The sign will be displayed in the TSA checkpoint for at least the next year. And there's a live look in Eugene this morning. It's shaping up to be a very beautiful day. No accidents reporting for your morning commute. We'll have more of your top stories when we return.